So why is it important to make sure that providers meet the needs of lesbian, gay and bisexual people who use services? Well, we all know it's the law. It's a basic human right enshrined in legislation to have respect for private and family life. This includes the right to form and maintain relationships. Providers have a legal duty to protect this right. And the regulations are clear. For example, Regulation 10, which talks about treating people with dignity and respect, specifically mentions that this must be done with due regard to people's protected characteristics. And Regulation 13 says that care and treatment must not be provided in a way that includes discrimination against a service user. Well, that's the law, but we also know it's the right thing to do. We know that LGBT people who use services get older just like anybody else, but we don't often hear about or see any reference to LGBT people during inspections. We often think that sexual orientation is a private matter and something we shouldn't discuss with people. Well, that's true to an extent. LGBT people, particularly older LGBT people, have faced and continue to face discrimination and abuse. Younger people with learning disabilities can face extra problems, as often their sexuality or sexual orientation isn't acknowledged at all. This often means that when an LGBT person starts to use a service, they can feel unsafe, and they often don't talk about this important part of their life. The issue here is that being LGBT isn't just about who you're attracted to. It's also about your identity, who you are, who you fall in love with, who you form relationships with. Often, when moving into a residential home, long-term partners become friends. People can't talk about how they love the most important person in their life. Friends aren't often included in the person's care. I don't want this to happen to me. I want my relationship and my identity as a gay man to be respected and to be an ordinary part of my care needs. I'm not more important than anyone else. I just want to be treated as anyone should be treated. I do not want to feel unwelcome when I go into a care home. I want my husband to be respected as any other person's husband, wife or partner would be. At a recent inspection, we spoke with staff about how they were supporting somebody who was very poorly and at the end of their life. It was really good to hear staff talking about this man's husband, which was a term that they both wanted the staff to use. Staff understood how important this man's husband was to him, and it meant they took their relationship seriously, as they would any other important relationship. Of course, providers are not there to out every LGBT person, and as inspectors, we must also be sensitive when reporting on services provided to LGBT people, and be careful not to identify or out anyone in reports. We can talk about this in general terms, for example by using the term protected characteristics. The challenge for providers is to look at how they make sure LGBT people feel safe enough to talk about their sexual orientation and relationships. Thinking about dignity and respect, how are staff made aware of the legislation regarding people with protected characteristics? Have staff undertaken any training in equality and diversity? And is this issue discussed in staff meetings? Thinking about protecting people who use services from abuse, how does the provider ensure that people with protected characteristics are protected from abuse, including homophobia and bullying? If a service doesn't mention how they welcome and support LGBT people, for example in their publicity or their website, how will lesbian, gay and bisexual people feel their identity and their relationships will be valued?